Hey everybody, you have no idea how lucky you are. We have Briana Hoffman here, a super lovely giving person with her time, has been writing for I think, well, let's say decades. She's been featured on the five featured artists. I think it was three at the week. Super helpful with her advice, very valuable, has advice on a lot of range of topics, but as I said, super interesting. Briana Hoffman, welcome. Thanks for joining the podcast.
Thank you so much.
I've been really looking forward to this. Why don't you do a little bit of an intro, just a tiny intro about who you are and what you do with music? We won't try to keep it to 1 minute like we did with the feature.
Okay, who I am? Who am I? That's a good question. Well, I'm a software engineer. I work for a company called Trimble, so not music related at all. I love doing volunteer work, and I fell into music. Like, why do I do music? I sort of fell into doing music. Really, I started about 15 years ago. Um, and
So at least a decade, not two, but 15, getting up there.
I was going to say, did that just date me? Yeah. So so I'm a language junkie, and I was learning French, and I had French exchange, language exchange partners, and one of them was a musician, and he would sing in English, and his lyrics were, well, you could definitely tell that he was not a native English speaker.
Yeah,
And so I offered to help him with his lyrics for his upcoming album, and he said, "Oh yeah, that'd be great." And he started sending me music. And what he would do is he would sing like just garbage, blah blah blah, to what with the instrumentals and the melody.
yeah,
And then I would take the music and I'd sit and I think, what is this about? What could this be about? And I
yeah.
would sort of try to feel the music, and then I would write the words, and then I'd send him the words. So then we had a song with music, and then authentically written English words. Um,
Yeah. Have
so
you seen Have you seen Eurovision at all? Like, did you have you are you aware of Eurovision? Was
yeah,
it kind of like that? Like the music is fantastic, but not native English speaking, and it makes it kind of interesting. It makes it interesting. Was it sort of like that?
yeah. I would say when I hear people sing, not everybody, but sometimes when non-native English uh, people write music and sing, it's a great melody and the words are great, but then you'll hear something that's just not quite right, and it just your brain goes, oh, it's there's sort of a moment where it just doesn't
Yeah.
flow in your mind.
L-
So
let me just try to give an example because I'm aware and people might be aware, but Will Ferrell did this movie about Eurovision, and the movie's actually called Eurovision, where he played like an Icelandic sort of guy. Like, look up if you don't know what Eurovision is, look up Eurovision, right? And he sort of caught on to this thing where people that are in Europe that want to write in English, they're great at writing music, and some people like X Blue Division, actually, of one of our fans, is actually he's not native English speaking, but he's beautiful at writing English, but not everybody does that. And within this movie, they did this song called "Ya Ya Ding Dong." If you want an example of what Brianna's talking about, watch "Ya Ya Ding Dong." It's a fun song, but the lyrics don't really mesh up to exact. It's forced English in a song. So go ahead. If you need an example, check that out. "Ya Ya Ding Dong."
yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah. So and actually, so I took one of my songs, so kind of on the same topic, and I wanted to write it in Ukrainian. I'd already written it in English, and I wanted to write it in Ukrainian because I speak Ukrainian, and I gave it to one of my friends, and she said, "Well, I understand what you mean, but
Yeah.
yeah, this doesn't work."
So it's like in reverse. In
Yes.
reverse, yes.
And it took me it was literally weeks of working with native Ukrainian speakers, and I still don't know whether it's I don't know whether it's good Ukrainian or not. But
You're challenging yourself. That's the important thing, right?
yeah, yeah, it was very hard. So anyway, yeah, so that was how I got started, and so that was it was quite a long time ago. And then unfortunately, he got busy with work. He was also an engineer, and he just disappeared off the face of the earth. And nothing ever happened. So I had all these songs written, and nothing ever happened with them. And I kept I really enjoyed it. I kept writing poetry and kept writing songs, doing nothing with them. I have this like huge archive of songs and poems that I wrote. And so then, gosh, I think it was about 8 or 9 months ago, I ran across an AI artist on YouTube. And, he was very clear about the fact that it was AI. And I was like, hey, if I gave you like some lyrics, could you make music out of it? And he's like, oh yeah, sure. And so that was kind of cool. I was like, wow, I could actually like hear my lyrics like sung. And so he made a couple songs, and I was kind of blown away. It was just amazing hearing.
I just want to jump in on this part too, because this is a common theme with people that are lucky enough to sort of find AI, because so many stories come to me of people just like that. They've been writing for years, they've had poems for years, they've had ideas for years, but they either don't have the inclination to start a band, they don't have time, they don't feel confident, maybe they're not really good in front of people, anything like that, and they have all these ideas, and then all of a sudden, somehow they get exposed to AI tools like Suno and Udio, and it's the ability to basically take those ideas and put them forward, but like there's more than that. It gets to be something where now you're out in the world and it's healing and it's good and it's exciting, and that's, I guess, the main reason why I do these things, is to hope to someone that maybe wouldn't have been exposed, like they all of a sudden see my face on a thumbnail and like, what's that? And they do it, right? So go carry on with that story. But that's what I wanted to get across.
Yeah. So I worked with this person who shall remain nameless, and he I think put up 3 of my songs. I was so excited because it was the first time I ever heard any of my words to music, and it was just the first time you hear your lyrics as music is just, it's mind-blowing. And then he disappeared.
Yeah.
That seems to be a theme. He disappeared. Didn't answer.
We won't leave you, Briana. We won't leave you. We're here for you.
And he took down my songs, and I was like devastated because I finally had my songs as music. Never told me why. I never found out why, and I was just like, I was upset and I was mad. And I was like, well, but I know he said Suno. I know he's using something. And I even knew what video software he was using. So he's like, well, it's software, right? I can do that.
Yeah.
So
people need to know, if you want to do this and you've got that, you don't need to rely on someone. You can do it yourself.
Right.
That software's out there. Suno, Udio. There's Refusion as well. Just be careful. Read the terms when you're using these.
Right. And actually, the thing I love about that, I'm going to tangent here for a second. The thing I love about music.
That's fun. But this is an interesting part of the story, because you've been sort of left behind a couple times, but you're still here doing it, and you're still here being helpful. So so the particular song that we were sort of in the middle of when he dumped me was a song for my Ukrainian friend in Kyiv. And the children's hospital had just been blown up by the Russians, and morale was really, really low in Kyiv. Like, everybody just was like just devastated. And so I wrote this song for my friend called Unbreakable. It was my first, and I ended up making the song myself. That was the first song that I made, because I had written the words for this, and I was like, this has to be music. And so that was the first song that I put into Suno that I made for my friend in Kyiv. That was a song about basically, things are bad, but you keep up, getting up every day, you keep going on,
and that things aren't so great for Russia either, and
Yeah.
you will have victory eventually. You just have to keep fighting. So
On that topic, I find it interesting, and it's difficult because things are so polarized right now. That because you sort of made me think right there, right? Like I've got friends because I was developing software just when the war broke out in Ukraine, and I worry about them all the time. But at the exact same time, I've got when sanctions were put on Russia, one type of music that I love is ambient relaxation, and one of my favorite artists is Astropilot. And Astropilot is a Russian dude. Sanctions were put on him. I've been basically buying his albums for years. He's totally against what's happening there because, I mean, you think of like an ambient relaxation guy. He's connected to people at their soul and all that stuff. He's been doing it for decades. And he's totally against it, but all of a sudden he has no income. He's suffering too. It's the people that sort of suffer in these things. Yeah. And I reach out to both. I reach out to my Ukrainian friends to say, how you going, man? Is everything okay? And they're safe up in the mountains. And I reach out to my buddy Astropilot. I say, dude, sorry, man. Like, I hope everything's okay. I hope this ends, and I hope you can keep getting your income. So,
yeah, it's a tough situation for all of them. But especially the Ukrainians, because they're the ones with the bombs falling on their heads.
Yeah, no, especially so. Yeah, I don't want to I don't want to not focus on that for sure. Yeah.
So that's how I got started. I've been, my first, honestly, I go back and I listen to my first song and I use the Suno video, and it's not great.
Yeah.
but you know what, you learn over time. So like every song I try to, just improve a little bit. So I started, I went from using the Suno video to I cut and pasted something together myself that was pretty bad for my second video, and then I started using Spectre to make videos because it does the little bouncy things.
Yeah. So Spectre. So Spectre is I use a different one. I have to. So I basically do two forms, right? Like if I really want to tell the story and I'm happy to have that story take a month for me to build out, I will go to Leonardo AI, make the images, and I'll take the images and I'll animate them and say runway or whatever I do, and then I'll take them to Kling and lip sync some parts of that, and that'll take me at least a month to sort of do with that. And what will sort of and you use Spectre. That's another sort of thing that I do. I don't use Spectre. I use one that's exactly the same. Visi, I think it's called Visi.io, which does the same thing. So if I don't want to have the standard video that comes out of Suno, which is just basic, it's very, very basic, and you want to basically put it out there and have a little bit of eye candy. Basically what it does is creates an audio visualizer, and as the sound goes on, it'll pulsate. It might make some static come across the screen. You can put your logo on you might animate automatically through the song of your logo. So that's what Briana's talking about. If you haven't done it before, it's a cool tool if you want to move just beyond the basic of what's provided as standard in Suno.
Yeah, and I find I have so little time for music that a lot of times, even though, so I've been learning DaVinci Resolve and Runway. I've been using those too. And I'm working on a video with those right now. I've got one video on my channel that uses DaVinci Resolve, and I use Runway to do some animation. Nothing spectacular. There's some really cool stuff out there, but mine not so.
It takes a while to get to spectacular.
It does. But I do find I'm so busy that I tend to lately I'm just using Spectre a lot of times. I don't even like when I multitask a lot of times. Like I go out for walks for exercise and I'm writing songs while I'm walking. Right, so I'm not even sitting at my desk.
And that's one of the points we made is separate yourself from your computer, and that's what you're right. And how do you like you said, we featured you before, and I sort of gave you a minute to go through your process, but like how do you find inspiration? What are some of the tips that you could have now that you have more than a minute to really deep dive and talk about for the people that want to write their own lyrics? Like this is the real value of having people in the community. Like how do you do it? What are some tips you can give to people that are just sort of starting out? Like I have you, I've sort of mentioned here in my notes here that you sort of write from heart and connections that you make. Is that something that you sort of lean on when you write your stuff, and how do you put it to paper?
It is. I find now, so you'll notice that a lot of them have a war theme, because my friends, I have a lot of Ukrainian friends now, and they are suffering. And a lot of my songs are written to them, for them, about them. Um, and when there's anything that gives me strong emotion, a lot of times, to be honest, I know this will sound crazy, but songs will write themselves in my head. I will start,
Mm.
like, it's not really auditory, but I'll start kind of hearing a song, hearing the
Yeah.
words. They sort of write
Did
themselves.
it always was it always like that, or has it become that?
It used to happen back when I was writing songs and poems initially, but now that I'm really, like, it's been 8 months, 9 months now. Now it's kind of to the extreme where, where, like, even silly things I'll start hearing rhyming in my head. I'm like, oh my god, everything doesn't have to be a song.
That's when we're going crazy.
I had a friend, I was just joking with her. I was out on a walk and I was texting with my friend. I was like, I could write a song about your toast. And by the time I got home, I'd been home like 2 hours and I had a song about my friend Vlad's toast.
Well, let's talk about the toasting, because then all of a sudden that what's happened there. You said that, and all of a sudden I started thinking about things that rhyme with toast. But one of the one of the tips that you gave was not to do direct rhymes, right?
Right.
So one of the tips you gave was assonance, right? So if you have a song about toast, you don't want to rhyme directly with toast all the way through, do you? You want to do assonance, which I didn't even know what that was until I heard that tip.
I hope that's the right word for it, because that's what I do, and I Googled it and that's what it said it was. So I hope assonance is the right word. But yeah, it's basically not completely rhyming. Um, and I actually did some rhyming on this one. I said it was the toast with the most. My friend Vlad, um, is living in Alaska. He's Ukrainian and he escaped from Ukraine. Actually, there's a thread through my songs about Vlad. Um, and so he escaped from Ukraine, got to Alaska. He's living in Alaska, and they have caviar up there. So he sends me these pictures of toast, like, piled with caviar, which, like, to us sounds like, oh my God, that must be, like, you'd have to mortgage your house to put that much caviar on toast. But I guess in Alaska, that's a thing you can do. So anyway, toast with the most. And I honestly, I can't remember uh, much else that was in that song. It's not
Yeah.
even one of my formally published songs. It's unlisted on my website.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it comes to a point, right? It does have a point in this where people can find peace through music in different ways, right? And in your way, like, it might sound like a funny song about toast or whatever, but I guess someone that's coming from trauma and escaping from trauma, having someone care enough about them to write a story and a fun song about toast, about something they're personally doing, probably, to us it's like, oh yeah, a song about toast, but to that person it probably has deep meaning because there's a connection, right? Because it's something they're doing, you're paying attention, and they're getting a song.
I want to talk about trauma, actually.
Yeah.
My friends from Ukraine and the trauma that they have been through. One of the songs that I wrote is a very gentle song. I think there's two versions. It's called "You Are Safe," and that one is actually specifically meant for people who have been through trauma. The whole message of the song is basically visualizing yourself in a safe place by a lake, and the whole point is that in this very moment you are safe, and this music is supposed to be very gentle and soothing. That song was specifically written for trauma, and I wrote it my friend literally had a drone fall out of the sky and blow up next to him.
Really?
And I texted with him in the minutes after that happened, and he was, well, he was traumatized. And way back in my past, I was a suicide hotline counselor and a crisis. I did crisis text and suicide hotline. So I knew what to say. I knew how to help him in that moment. And then once we had kind of gotten him back to kind of being stable, and we had stopped texting, I went out for a walk and I wrote this song, "You Are Safe," and it was specifically for him, for basically anyone who's been through that kind of trauma.
Yeah. I mean, this might be a good opportunity as well. Sort of to mention, well, it is a good opportunity to mention that the writing of the songs, like we said, for that friend of yours in Ukraine and your buddy with the toast in Alaska, that's really powerful to reach out with these sort of methods and say, like, I care about you, here's this song. But there's the flip side of it too, which is just as important, and what I'm really hoping to get out is introducing these sort of tools and the ability to communicate in this way, because I always think like there's something about music that connects deeply, and whether you're a traditional artist or whatever and you like AI music's fake and all this crap, you can, whatever, you can go wherever, because people connect to it in an authentic, real way, whether you like it or not. And I interviewed Dom a couple weeks ago, and people have seen that and they've really responded to the fact that he was very open to the fact that he didn't want to live anymore. He found his way to keep surviving, and producing this music and creating it is a way for him to heal and get through it. He's had meetings with his counselor, and that counselor said, "There's nothing that I've seen that you've done in all the years that we've been meeting that's been able to help you heal and focus in a positive way, like creating this music is." So, writing the songs for people like your friends in the Ukraine is important. I think introducing these tools to people in Ukraine and other people that are struggling is also extremely important in healing. And if we can reach out to those people and get them to do it, and feel comfortable with doing it, whether it's like good or bad, it's the best song that's ever been done. It's the process of creating it and putting it out into the world, whether a million people watch it or listen to it or not. It doesn't matter. It's that process. So that's what I think. That's what I'm finding. It's not just what I think. That's actually what I'm finding.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I find it to be very healing too. Things have been rough over here the last couple months, and a lot of my music actually lately has been about me, and it's been my own kind of process of healing.
Let me just introduce this topic then too. Like in the U.S. right now, obviously, there's political. I don't think we've ever been divided, either from the last 4 years or this 4 years. I think, I think it's unfortunate that people have put themselves on sides. I don't think we should be on sides. I think that's been created by a lot of negative, social media and stuff. I think we sort of go in that way. And I'm finding that there's a bit more of a political movement in music from AI than there has been in traditional media. And for years, I've been wondering why there hasn't been like a resurgence of the 60s and 70s hippie movement talking about politics. And I just think because the division's so big, people that want to make money off of music, you're afraid to sort of go hard down one, because you see people get destroyed, right? You look at the Dixie Chicks, they were done, death threats and all that stuff. I think AI music lends itself more with your ability to create that stuff, because there's people that just don't care because it's not going to affect their career. They can just create music how they want. We spoke that we were probably going to speak about this, and you're probably a bit more expert and on the ground level than I am in that. Do you want to talk to that a little bit?
Yeah. One of the things that I've noticed just in the last couple months, so I try to listen to other AI artists as well, and be supportive, and hear what they're doing. And I there's been a lot, just a real increase in
Mm.
political music, both there's kind of left, right, and just the focus on kind of the what the issues are. Um, you know, so one example, one of my favorite artists who's written some political music is a guy named Timothy Burley, and he takes, like, after the horrific Zelensky White House fiasco, he wrote.
I'll just say for the record, I cringe. I cringe when I see that, and I don't I block it now because I feel so uncomfortable. But go
Yes.
ahead. Go ahead.
So he wrote a song about the "You Don't Have the Cards," and then the most amazing song that he's written, and actually one of my favorite songs, is called "Suit Yourself," and it was
Yeah, I've
about.
seen it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's a fantastic song. So to me, that's a song about an issue. It's not about a political agenda. It's about, what, this thing happened and it was just wrong.
Mm.
Um, there's another guy that I want to call out, and I wrote his name down because I don't remember everybody's names a lot of time. Jay Billings, I've seen, has done some good songs lately about. Um, he has done one specifically about, this is not the president we want, but then also just some of the things that are happening that are really causing people pain. And I think for me, I think the most, I guess on my channel, I've got some songs about unity, about trying to find common ground, whether you're left or right. I'd like to think that the majority of us want
What's
kindness.
good? People want success. People want
Yes.
things to carry on and people to be happy.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. We don't want to see cruelty. We don't want to see people suffering. Um, and
It's
like,
just, you know what, politically, it's the space has been, like I said, through negative marketing and social media. It's almost, they created a thing where if you're happy, I can't be, or if I'm happy, you can't be. The division is so wrong. Like, I sort of, in my music, am always tempted to write political, because I have strong political feelings. The problem is, I don't want to cause people to be angry by writing a bad song about that person. And it's not that I care about them being angry at me. I don't want them to. I don't want to be another source of people getting like all worked up about stuff. I don't want to be that. I don't want to make people to be sad because. So I basically almost write politically in the avoidance of politics, right? And it's not because I don't have political feelings. It's because I almost just like my stuff is satirical because I just want to laugh everything off. And it's almost getting to a point where you can't. Like you should be able to look at things and write about things like Zelensky being in Washington and saying that was wrong. The way they treated him as a person in a country that's suffering is wrong.
mm-hmm.
I should still be able to love Trump if I want to, but say that was wrong. But you can't. Like you can't be critical of any single action without basically being written off by at least half the country, and then subsequently being loved by the other half of the country that you maybe don't want to be loved. It's so bad. And I think that's what's sparking off a lot of these political things. I think it's the only voice that people have is to be able to go to Suno and basically write.
Yeah. One of the strategies I've taken, I've written political music. You won't find it on my channel because my channel, I really want to focus on unity and bringing people together, because I think that is really important. I put it on another channel. It's a tiny little channel that almost nobody's discovered, but that's like my outlet.
We won't link. I know you got some concerns about linking that out to you, so we won't do that. But just know that it exists.
Right. So I put my political anger there, and I try to keep mine focused on unity, which I think is also important. I don't care whether somebody voted for Trump or not. If they're willing to stand up for what's right and what's wrong. I mean, maybe there were some things that they, some reasons that they voted for Trump, but let's be able to call out the things that are cruel that are happening right now. Um,
Yeah.
and I think we should do that on both sides. There were some things that Biden did on his way out of office that I was not happy about either.
Yeah, yeah. Totally.
So I think we need to call them out no matter which side they're on. We need to hold all of our politicians accountable.
Yeah.
So I do
Yeah.
like let's focus on the issues. Let's not trash the person.
Yeah. No, totally get that. It's kind of hard. Yeah. We won't go down that road that I was about to go down. But yeah, look, I didn't want to get too political, and I don't think it's political. I think we tied it into music pretty well, and I think it's okay to make your feelings known here. And I think I think if we're going to heal, I think we have to make it so it's okay for people to talk about what they're feeling, and not be attacked for it. And hopefully we won't be attacked too much here. I don't think we've gone too hard down any one way. We're just talking about how music is sort of on the rise, and it's okay, right? As long as you keep it respectful, I think it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Now, one thing I wanted to ask, I'll sort of move past that stuff. Do you have any advice for people that are just starting out? Because you said you sort of, you have a way that you're very reflective in the way that you started out, and the way that music kind of came about with you with the languages, and you sort of trying to help people out, and it sort of grew that way, and you had no way to go. And then you sort of found, AI tools and things. Do you have any advice for any new creators? If people are seeing this for the first time, like, oh, that sounds very interesting. You mean I can make music? Like, what's some advice that you could give based on your experience?
Yeah. So I think just a basic process that they can follow is, you write your lyrics, and I talked about a way that you could do that if you've never written songs before, just by taking a song that you like and rewriting it with your own words. So that's one way to get started. Once you put the lyrics in Suno,
We'll start. Why don't go into just a little bit more detail about how that goes about? Because when you sort of gave that advice initially for the 5 featured artists, I sort of had to figure that out myself. But if you were to just break that down a little bit.
The writing the lyrics for the first
Yeah,
time?
so if you to take a song and sort of rewrite it, just what does that look like?
Yeah, so let's say you have an idea in your head. Let's say you want to write a breakup song, right? You find
You're Taylor Swift.
whatever it is, you go
Taylor
out.
Swift, if you're watching this video right now, this could be your next tip.
So you go out and you find some maybe angry sounding music, something that has the right vibe. And then you basically you get the lyrics for that song, and you look at the pattern of rhyming. Like, okay, so there's 4 lines, and the second and the fourth are going to rhyme or nearly rhyme. And you count the syllables, and you look at the rhyming, and you basically just rewrite your words over the top of that, so that your new song has the same structure as the old song, and you should be able to sing it too, and you'll hear whether it works well or not. And then you end up with a song that's got good structure, as long as the one you chose had good structure. But it's probably going to work. And then you go into Suno from there.
Let me just tell you the aha moment I just got just now, right?
Okay.
And one thing I constantly try to tell the community is let's learn off of each other, and that's why I want to have a community, and deep diving and listening to these interviews and things. One of the other people that was featured with you was David Gerson, right? He's been writing since 1979, I think it was, and he was in the Academy of Writers. People like Paul Simon were in, and he talked about structure of a song, and in isolation, he's like, okay, that makes sense. And he also said, like, because he's really straight, and that interview is going to be in a form released tonight. We talk about that, so it's going to be back and forth in time. Already has been released weeks ago, but the structure of a song, because I don't know these things, didn't really understand that and how important that was. And now I've learned that. And as a concept, I've learned that and I've sort of understood that. But I haven't really, until right now, understood how to put it together. And his point was, he's found when he doesn't have a good structure, if he puts it into Suno, Suno has no freaking idea about the tone of the song. What is so you might because you might write a breakup song like you said, and you've got all these lyrics and you throw it in, and Suno goes, I'm going to make a country song because that's what I default to all the time because I don't understand that this is supposed to be a heartfelt, beautiful song because the structure doesn't make sense in as a form of a breakup song the way you want to do it. Now Brianna's coming in and saying, okay, to just hear that there should be structure, that's good. I understand that. Now, how do I do that? Now, you've just basically given me the key to be able to say, if I want to write a song about a breakup song, I need to find a good breakup song and find out how the cadence of that song flows, and then basically follow those guidelines. And you've mentioned and previously that you have your own method now. You don't necessarily follow that strict, but this is a good way to get started.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be a breakup song, but it probably needs to be an.
This is a good example.
It needs to be like an angry song, right?
Yeah.
Breakup might be making you angry, so yeah.
If you're angry is the way you're going, if sadness is the way you're going for your breakup, then go for a sadness song.
Yes, yeah, you want something that's got kind of that vibe. And the other thing, like looking at the number of syllables, like one thing I find is when let's say that you have a verse and it's 4 lines. You want the lines to all have roughly the same number of syllables. So I either go for like 4 or 5, maybe 6 syllables on a line, or I go for like 6, 7, or 8 syllables on a line. But I wouldn't have like one line with 4 and one line with 8. That's too much of a difference. And Suno doesn't usually, a lot of times, doesn't do well if you have big variations in the number of like syllables in a line. So that's what one thing, like if you're rewriting a song using their structure, it's going to guide you to have like probably similar length, lines and syllables. So yeah. And then once you're ready to put it in Suno, you talked about it giving you a country song when you really want to, I don't know.
I wrote a song called Suno Got My Prompts Wrong, and now I've got a country song. You can hear it on Praise Be Vinyl.
Awesome. Yeah. So finding like the style, the musical style, one good way to do that is you go listen to a whole bunch of songs on Suno, and you will find, oh, hey, that person did something really cool there. Boy Tragic was one of my first subscribers, and I love listening to his music. We've like shared links back and forth. He put some of the weirdest stuff together, like
there's some weird stuff out there, but I love that part of the creative process. People can find their funk, and they're not restricted to what exists, really.
Yeah, some of his music sounds really, really cool because he'll put together the weirdest like tags that you would not tags, but labels or whatever they are in the when you're making
meta tags. Yeah.
In Suno, when you're telling it what the style of the music is, so, like your list of things.
Like your prompts.
Yeah. He puts together a lot of really unexpected things, and they come out really cool. So I think when you're just starting, it's good to do the explore on Suno, listen to all the different types of music. It's good to go through Suno and listen to other artists and look at their music style and find kind of the style that works for you. So that's another thing I recommend that they do. And then you also, like, once you play it for the first time, you want to listen. You'll hear typos in your song. Like, I always make typos. You'll hear the typos. So, like, don't generate a bunch of versions. Generate one version. Even if you hate it, listen to it all the way through. Fix your typos. You'll hear there'll be areas where you're like, that's cheesy. That doesn't work. You have to go rewrite little sections.
Yeah.
And then
look, this has been part of my process since the start, because I never had a process, and that's one thing that became very obvious to me is if you haven't been doing this for 100 years, right? The hardest thing is to understand what a song's gonna sound like until you hear it.
Yes.
And I think a lot of traditional music people are actually using it for this way too. Before they even go into full on production with their band, they're basically hearing what the song sounds like in the flow before they even get to that point. Probably saves them a ton of time.
Yeah, and I can imagine coming up with some really amazing songs that you could actually play as a, traditional style artist. That would be so amazing. Um, the other thing that I think is really important, um, is to make music that you have to listen to again.
Mm.
If you, as you're, I will sometimes make like 200, 300,000 versions of a song until I get the one that I have to listen to again. Because if you don't want to listen to it again, nobody else will either, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's been a common theme. People are saying too. David Litwin said the same thing.
yeah. So even if it takes you 500 or 1,000 versions, and if you get to 1,000 and you still don't want to, haven't found one, put it on the shelf for a while and come back later. Because either Suno will be better, or sometimes I'll rewrite half the song, give it another song style, and then magically I have a song that works. So
Yeah.
don't be afraid to put it on a shelf if it's not working.
Yeah.
So
Sometimes the song might just be for you, right? Like sometimes
yeah,
you understand what it's about. It's worked. You've got your message. You've gotten it out of your system. Maybe it doesn't work for anybody else, but at least you've done it.
yes, I love that. I have a couple really angry, ragey songs that will never be released. So
Sia says you know what? Like I may or may not have mentioned this before, but Sia says she does that. Like she's got her stuff that she puts out commercially, but she has stuff that she just writes for herself. People asked her, I think at some point, like, how do you distinguish between your commercial? You're like an indie artist, but you're like massive commercial. And she says, well, I do my commercial stuff and I do my stuff that's not commercial. Maybe you don't have to release every song.
right, yeah, absolutely. So then when you're ready to export your music, export it in WAV format, not MP3. Export it in WAV format. That's the higher quality. I did not know that at first. I had to look that up. The other thing that I think is really important for beginners is just know that you're going to need some kind of music editing tool. Audacity is free, and it's relatively easy to learn. I think I learned it a long time ago, and I think it was easy. But
Just briefly, I'll jump in that. Like, what Audacity is it called a digital audio workstation or a DAW? I did a video about this months ago. It wasn't the best one. It was basically introducing to people what a DAW is and that people should use it. Mm-hmm. So when Suno or Udio or whatever, Udio is probably a little bit better with the raw format. It's just harder to work with Udio. But when a song comes out of AI, it's not prime releasing for consumption. It just doesn't pop enough. It's not clear enough. It doesn't meet the standards. So you can go into a digital audio workstation like Audacity, and there's a bunch of other ones. I use a different one where you can basically pull out the bass and pull out the guitar, make the vocals sound more crisp. I'm not great with it. There's people that are. Sounds like Briana's got it figured out. Maybe I'll get someone out that's really good with DAW to come on here, but I just wanted to say that's what it is for people that are new.
The way I learned to use to do some of the things like making the vocals more crisp is I asked ChatGPT. I would dump out the so first of all, if you're going to edit it, you want to dump out the stems usually, because a lot of times there will be something, maybe if you want to bring out the vocals, you can actually do the work on the vocal stem. If you want to bring out the bass, you want to do the work on the instrumental stem. You don't want to affect the vocals. So it's really good to get the stems, not just the whole, get it all together.
The stems is the breaking the segments apart, separating the vocals from the instrumentals in different ways.
Yes.
Which you can do in Suno.
So getting the stems, you do that in Suno and get the wave, and then you import those into Audacity, and that's where you can play with it. And I a lot of times I'll use Audacity to fade the end if I didn't get a good ending, or like if I did an extension but it gave me much more than I wanted, I'll chop it in Audacity. So and then I've used ChatGPT to say, hey, I've got this song and the S's are hissy, or something's popping, or like how do I, how do I fix this? And Chat GPT is amazing. Like, I've asked it, how do I improve the stereo? How do I add reverb? And it gives you a lot of really good advice, specific advice about how to tell it you're using Audacity, and it'll tell you, here's the range that you want to increase by how much. Like,
I love that.
it is.
I love that
So
because you're using a tool, right? You people are afraid to admit that they use AI. People are feel like they're dirty and somehow or whatever. But the fact is, like, you are a lyricist that has found a way to make music, and if you didn't use those tools, it wouldn't happen. Your feelings wouldn't get out in the world, and people wouldn't be able to hear the stuff that you make, and you wouldn't be able to be on this podcast helping other people sort of figure out how to send their message across and heal in those certain ways, or basically put out their breakup songs and make them quality and all that. So I guess like traditional artists should be like happy, like we're using these tools so the stuff going out is better quality instead of terrible. You say thank you.
Yeah. So okay. So once you got everything in Audacity and you think you're happy with it, the next thing you got to do. This is really important. Listen to it with crappy earbuds. You want to listen to it with good headphones, and you want to listen to it with crappy earbuds.
Is this something you sort of figured out, or was this something ChatGPT advised and you're like, oh, that really works?
I think I might have figured it out on my own because
Awesome.
I remember so I have some really nice headphones. Love these.
Yeah.
Love the Sony. Love the bass in the Sony headphones. And then I also listen to music on my phone with just Apple, earbuds. And I put out a song that I really loved, and I was listening to it with my crappy earbuds, and I was like, wow, the noise is terrible. So when you use cheap earbuds, you're going to hear a lot of the high frequency noise. Whereas if you listen to the same song with good quality headphones, you'll hear more bass and you won't hear as much of that high frequency noise. So you may have a song that sounds decent with your good headphones, and you listen to it with like earbuds and it sounds terrible. And then the opposite is also true. You may listen to a song and it sounds really, really good with earbuds, and then you put on your high quality headphones and you're like, the bass sounds horrible. It's like muddy or something, and you need to clean that up. So you want to listen to it with both, because that you want whatever people are using to listen to your music, you want them to have a good listening experience.
Yeah.
So that I think is one of the most important things that I learned a little too late.
Well, and I'll tell you something else. I'll add to that. At least at a minimum, listen to it with headphones, not just on your computer. Mm-hmm. If you don't do this, but you could go back to my earlier episodes on this channel, and you'll find that the sound was only coming through in one ear, and you don't know that. If you start playing with a DAW and all that, and you're not listening on the headphones, you might find that there's only one channel going through, and you won't know unless you listen to it on the headphones.
Yeah.
And also you'll start to get a gauge for sometimes the sound's coming through in that ear because it's supposed to. Mm-hmm. And if you're not listening to it on headphones, that won't be the case. I love that advice, which I'd never heard that before, listening to it in different sort of headphones before. So
Yeah.
Another great tip.
Thank you. So, okay, so once you've got everything done in Audacity, and you're happy with it in Audacity, then you export it. Then you need to decide whether you want to use mastering software like BandLab. My experience with BandLab has been kind of mixed. Originally, the sound quality coming out of Suno was not great, and it could sound better if you ran it through BandLab. But what I do find with BandLab is that any high frequency noise, it amplifies it. So you may have something that sounds good going into BandLab, and it sounds bad coming out of BandLab. So what BandLab does, in the ideal case, is it will take a song and it will improve the stereo quality for you, so you'll have better stereo quality, and it seems like it brings the volume up just a little bit. It does something called compression, which I believe, I'm not exactly sure how it works, to be honest. It just sounds better.
Yeah. Well, that's the stage we need to be at to start with before we know everything. You know?
But I found that BandLab, I'm not really actually that happy with BandLab anymore, because I do find that it sometimes makes more high frequency noise, and then I think the sound doesn't sound as good. So I haven't used it as much lately. If you want better stereo quality, ask ChatGPT, how can I improve the stereo quality of my song in Audacity? And it will tell you ways that you can do that. So,
excellent. Well, I mean, that's good, because I think we all start with getting a song and releasing it, and then we get a song and then we put some video to it and then we release it. And I think there's a step that I was told when I first started getting into AI music about releasing songs, and people say, one of the comments I got was, "You're missing a key step, bro. You need to mix it or improve." And I thought, okay, I'll get to that. So that's a thing that we all need to learn to do, because it is noticeable. I hear some of my songs where I haven't remastered, and I go, "Oh man, it sounded so good back then, and now it doesn't so much anymore," because your ears sort of adjust to what is, and you notice it a bit more.
I think that's true. I do think that it's okay to say nope. It sounds better without the remaster, the BandLab remastering. You can still do some of the remastering stuff on your own in like Audacity, and so I've started doing more of that and less of BandLab, because there's just I'm not happy with the kind of noise that it sometimes adds in. So so for me, that's kind of the process on the music part of it, and then you've got the whole deciding what you want to do with the video, whether you want to go. I think Spectre and some of these are really nice tools to give you a little more dynamic. It gives
you this little something extra.
Yeah,
it's the chef's kiss.
Yeah, it is. You know, having a video that's got a little bit of motion, and it just. It looks a little bit more. I feel like it looks a little bit more professional.
Look, there's some psychology around it. I don't know, like what do you call the Diary of a CEO? Steve Bartlett talks about it a little bit, about our brains need to be occupied a little bit no matter what we're doing. Mm-hmm. That's why, like sometimes, like some new things that you might install on your computer, if they're going to take 10 minutes, they have little mini games that you can play, like a guy skiing down and control, because people don't want to just look at a screen of something installing. Even though there's music, there's psychology a bit around it, where you still need to be occupied in some other way, and the visuals are important to do that. And it's really good if you can get the visuals like an actual video to tell the story of the song. There's another layer of it, but at a minimum, use like Vizio or Spectre to create some sort of something going on in the screen. Yeah. Look, I just want to sort of wrap this up, because we're sort of getting to that time. But you've also mentioned, and we mentioned a lot about community in here, and you've said how you were inspired to get going with some people, and that got you going. And there's people that your first subscriber got onto your channel, you've made connections with them and you've learned from them. How important is community and connecting to other people going through these same things in your process, how it makes you feel, how it motivates you? If you want to just sort of talk a little bit about that as we sort of close out, because that's one of the most important things that I run this channel for, is that.
I think the community on Facebook, there's a couple of AI music groups. There's like AI Music Society and AI Music Creators, and then there's a couple different ones with the same name. I've met a half a dozen people now, and I found it to just be amazing. Some people I message with, and we talk about, well, hey, what tools are you using, or I've got two versions of the song and I'm really not sure which one sounds better. What do you think? And it's been amazing. It's been really amazing. And I also think that when you're getting started, being able to post in these groups, I see a lot of people complaining, why do I bother to post? Nobody listens to my stuff. I don't find that to be true. I've found that people have come and listened to my music. I go listen to other people's music. I'm really excited by the people that I've met in the community. And really all the people I've met have been through Facebook, for the most part, either through Facebook or somebody on Facebook like pointed me to to somebody that they knew. So everything went back to Facebook.
That's kind of that's how we sort of connected, isn't it?
Yeah, Aaron Wilson pointed
Yeah.
me to. He was actually I heard his music and I fell in love with his lyrics. Fell in love with his lyrics, and he was one of the people that I started talking to, and there's a couple people now, and so yeah, it's a great community. I really highly recommend anybody starting out to go post in those communities. I never actually asked for people's advice because I didn't actually want it. That probably sounds terrible. I like friends. I'll ask for their advice, but people can be a little harsh on Facebook. But just getting your music out there and supporting others, I think, is important too.
Yeah. Yeah, and if look, you got to know the right people to ask for advice too. And I'll just say like your circle of people that you connect with doesn't have to be huge. Like you said, you have a half a dozen, and that's probably enough for some people, probably for most people, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So cool. Hey, look, Brianna. I mean, I thanked you a lot when we started, so I definitely want to thank you a lot now. I really, you're a huge resource, and I'm lucky to have been connected to you. Like a lot of the stuff you said in a short amount of time, I've already started using to write my new songs. That assonance thing was, whether it's the right word or not, I don't care. You can call it whatever you want. I've started doing it.
Awesome.
And it's basically made my songs feel a lot better. You're a very caring and connected person, which I think is really important to music and especially for community, which is what I'm really trying to push here. So again, I thank you for being on, and I'll basically put whatever links you want in the description below for your different channels and all that. But again, thank you for being here, and hopefully we'll get to keep talking about different things offline. So
Thank you so
thank
much
you.
for inviting me. I feel very honored. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Brianna.